regulation, temporary regulation that we voted on earlier, reintroduce it, and second the motion and vote on it again if it's the board pleasure that we pass it, and only because it's much less restrictive than the one we're going to be stuck with if we don't.
So I'm going to just step in and try to simplify that motion unless one of the board members has something they'd like to say. So,
Please do.
so the motion will simply be to that the board would reconsider the ETS proposal before it tonight. That's it. You're just reconsidering it and voting on whether or not to approve it again.
With the subcommittee added on?
The subcommittee has already been voted on and approved and established. So that's already there.
So we have that.
Yeah, you'll have the subcommittee no matter which way this goes.
Just a point of clarification, do we need 4 affirmative votes for this to pass or just the majority of the voting members?
You need, well, that would be 4.
Oh, 4.
Understood. But if 1 or 2 of the voting members abstained, would it be a majority of the votes cast, or do you
Still have to have 4 votes.
Right.
Can I just,
Thank you.
I want to confirm that
Go ahead.
with our council
Okay.
really quick. I believe it's 4. I want to make sure that it's not more. Can you give me just 2 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, that whole issue of a health standard versus a safety standard. I remember you need 2 different, there's 2 different
Well,
quotas.
that's why we have our attorney, so we can ask that question.
The other thing just is that whole issue of choice of respirator. I think that that's really, even if we stay with the voluntary language, I really think that needs to be clarified in an FAQ. And then Nola, your points around customers versus students. I think that I would have answered differently based on my interpretation of the ETS. So I think that that was an important question to bring up. Is just, again, we need some case examples so that we're all on the same page around how the standard is being interpreted. Because I would have thought that, first of all, obviously, I don't know what's happening with the CSU system and students. Certainly in the UC system, they're requiring students to be vaccinated unless there's a religious or a medical exemption. But, again, is that going to be a mixed group? And then I would think the faculty would need to wear a mask.
Yeah, I interpret it that way as well, Barbara.
Right. So I think we need some consistent interpretation.
So you're saying that regardless, they would need to wear a mask?
In a mixed group, if you have someone who's unvaccinated and you might have a student that's not vaccinated. And so that's what's a little confusing to me, because in the language, they do mention customers in the public in one part. And I don't know whether that's in the outbreak section or what, but I sort of
the way I sort of interpreted that is that the employer's responsibility, let's say in a grocery store, is to identify risks of exposure to workers and take steps to mitigate those risks. And in a grocery store, customers are a risk. And that sort of supports, their language about encouraging customers to wear masks, et cetera. So,
but then would the cashier who is fully vaccinated, would he or she have to wear a mask? See, that's why I'm still stuck on, I would work behind a partition if I was a grocery store cashier. I just would. With a mask, I'd have an N95 on. But hey, I worked in COVID for 11 months, so I am very, very conservative in this department. Because we're not through it. Not through it yet.
Yeah, I mean, there were just enough questions about interpretation today that I knew this wasn't over with. And I think that was the reason I voted it down. It just.
So the answer to the question is we need 4 votes for it to pass. And so it's up to you how you want to vote. And so does anybody want to make a motion?
So I'm sorry, is this a vote to vote or a vote on the actual proposal? I'm just a little confused.
This is the vote on the actual proposal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Christina had suggested some excellent verbiage And if she wanted to restate it,
Yeah, that
I'd
would
say,
be good.
I so move.
And I thank the board for your leave and letting me run and check on that vote. As some of you know, I like to practice an abundance of caution as opposed to making mistakes. So the motion that you would want to propose would be a reconsideration of the ETS proposal that is before you today and whether or not to approve it.
So if we voted yes to that, would it be saying that we want to reconsider it and vote on it again? Or would a yes
Yeah.
vote say, I'm sorry?
Sorry, that last bit that I gave you was bad. So I'm going to write it out very quickly.
Because you're right, Laura, there's two votes in there. Yes,
Right.
to
Let me just
reconsider.
write it out. Consider the ETS proposal. Okay, here's what we have. Thank you. You would propose, and I'm going to say this in the voice of a board member. I propose we reconsider the ETS proposal before us tonight and vote to approve it.
So do we have that motion?
So moved.
Do we
Second,
have a second?
you got a second.
So you have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions? All right, so Sarah, would you please call the roll?
Miss Burgle,
Aye.
Miss Crawford,
Aye.
Mr. Harrison,
Aye.
Miss Kennedy,
Aye.
Miss Lasses Davis,
Aye.
Miss Stock,
Aye.
Chairman Thomas.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you, board. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the ones who are willing to serve on our three-person
Subcommittee.
Sorry, it's getting late. And I really appreciate that because I also realize this could be better and it needs to be better. But in the meantime, this will help, I believe. And thank you for that.